Hey guys, Travis here, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about installing a front-facing camera on a 2019 Toyota Tundra. So I got the truck and I started doing the normal upgrades, suspension, lift, started taking it off-road, and quickly realized that the front visibility in the Tundra leaves quite a lot to be desired. Shoot, even in a parking lot, the front visibility in the Tundra can leave a little bit of desired, especially if this is your first full-size truck like it was for me. So definitely took some getting used to, and just even parking, you start to find yourself parking farther out, etc. But anyway, I digress. So front facing camera, I decided I wanted one, started doing some research, decided I didn't want to spend too much money and make sure this is something I wanted. So I did just buy a pretty low cost, budget, janky, whatever you want to call it, front camera kit on Amazon. I have to say it probably was less than $100. And it's just the camera and the wiring, but not the power wiring that you would need. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I bought the camera and then I had to install it myself. It doesn't come with any kind of bracketry. You have to make all that yourself. So be aware, if you are going to install a front-facing camera, you will have to figure out how to mount it. So let me show you how I mounted mine. So this is the front grille. I got it off the truck here. And you can see I just fabricated this little bracket. And I say fabricated, that's a very loose usage of the term. That's just a piece of 1/4 inch thick ABS plastic that I bought a sheet of, cut out this little strip, trimmed it to what I thought the right size would be, got a heat gun, formed it, kind of roughly the shape that I wanted, and then drilled a hole to mount the camera through here. You just slide the camera nut up through, the stud up through, and the nut down the wire, tighten it down. And then I just used a 2-part Gorilla Glue. The first time I did this, I actually didn't take the grill off for reasons that we won't go into. Being lazy, I guess, would be the best one. And I did have that bracket pop loose after a few years of usage. So I had to come back in here and mount it again with some Gorilla Glue. But since I've done this, I have had zero concerns with this coming loose. So yeah, just form that into place, kind of mess around, get your 2-part epoxy, whatever you want to use to set it in, and then the camera's mounted, and then you'll just have to kind of mess around with, the alignment to make sure that it's pointing straight. The other side of that kit, you can kind of see here, this is the connector pops onto there. I got the excess tucked away. And then you can see the wire running back to the firewall, pops through the firewall there, and then it goes into the cab. I'll show you that real quick. Comes down through here, through the firewall, and then I tap off of the fuse block that's right there with a fuse tap. And so that fuse tap replaces the fuse, gives you an output, and then 2 fuses you can put in. So you keep the circuitry that was there, still fuse protected. Make sure you use the same size fuse for that circuit. So make sure you know which circuit is which of the 2 fuse spots in the fuse tap. And then you just add a second fuse to it, and then you have a power source that you can use. Very handy. I can't remember what the size fuse tap that I used was. If you ask comment and questions, or put a question in the comments, and I will go dig it out on my Amazon order from whenever I bought it, and I will drop a link in the comment section for you if you're curious. And then I ran the wire up to the head unit. But then there's where the problem starts again. Toyota factory head units do not support a front-facing camera. They do not even support an always-on rear camera. They have a rear camera on the Tundras. You put it in reverse, camera comes on. Put it in drive, camera goes away, and there's nothing you can do about it. So now that I have the camera, question is how was I going to display my front camera? Obviously, if I'm doing off-roading, which is the reason I bought the camera, I want to be able to use it all the time whenever I'm driving off-road or in a parking lot, anything like that. So I found there were 2 options. You can buy a kit that will take a front camera, take your rear camera, run it through a switch, plug it into the factory head unit, and then you have the ability to flip the switch to be front camera, rear camera, and then the center position, the camera will act as normal. When you put it in reverse, it'll come on. and when you have it in drive or not in reverse, it will turn off. So those kits are like $300. Not bad, but more than I really wanted to spend. So then I thought about, I can probably figure out the electrical schematics, etc., and build one myself, but I really didn't want to spend the time and everything else. And the bigger problem was I would still be using the factory head unit. So for those who own this generation Tundra, you will probably already know this, and if you don't, big surprise. Head unit sucks. It is absolute garbage in my opinion. The screen's not very bright. The software seemed to be okay, but the screen wasn't bright. The sound wasn't great. The volume, max volume, wasn't great. So I had already been kind of thinking about replacing some or all of the sound system in the truck, because I do like my tunes, I do like my music, do like my bass. So I had already been thinking about replacing the head unit anyway. So it seemed kind of silly to me to spend $300 on the switching unit, use the factory, and then in a year replace the head unit and not need that $300 switch. So that's what I did. I went ahead and replaced the head unit with an aftermarket, and I'll show that to you guys now. This is a Kenwood aftermarket head unit that fits. I went through Crutchfield online. I really like them. I've always loved their customer service. You go on, you put in your model, they'll ask you some questions if you have the JBL head unit or stereo system versus non-JBL, etc. If you have the center speaker like I do, but not the JBL on the door like I do, it'll give you all the right information that you need. The kit, because you don't need just the head unit, you also need a small control box to get all your controls on your dash to work. And you can actually customize these if you don't like how these buttons are working. If you want to switch your audio and your skips buttons, you can do that, etc. So I went ahead and I bought that unit. I bought the little control box, and I went ahead and I bought the head unit. I bought the stuff. I bought everything that Crutchfield recommended. No complaints there. Crutchfield is great. Could I have saved some money going through somewhere else? Probably, but the peace of mind that if I had any problems, which I did, ended up having some issues on the programming of the little controller, called Crutchfield. They got an expert on the line, or a technician. I don't know if it was an expert, but had the question or the answers to my questions, worked them out, and got me up and running. So I have zero complaints about Crutchfield. The one thing that I will say that I didn't pay enough attention probably, but the one complaint I have about that whole aftermarket head unit that I didn't realize until I got the unit and got it installed is the aftermarket head units will not utilize the built-in mic in your truck for hands-free phone calls. So if you buy an aftermarket head unit, you will need an external mic. Now, I have one. I installed it up here in the pillar. It works great. I've never had any real complaints about my volume on phone calls. The newer head units actually sometimes will have it built into the head unit. You can even buy head units now that are larger than will fit in your console. They'll actually sit just outside of your console. So you can get up to 10 plus inch screens, which I kind of want to do, but I haven't got that far yet. But yeah, I bought this aftermarket head unit. It gives me front camera, rear camera, always on camera. Screen's way brighter, way bigger. Software is better. I can use Android Auto wireless. I don't have to plug a cable in, but I still have the USB ports available to plug in a USB to the head unit. Factory location, aux drive, factory location. Buy some trim pieces so it all fits. The color matching could be better. But I want to paint all that stuff black anyway, so I didn't really care about that. But yeah, aftermarket head unit, if you have this generation Tundra, even if you're not doing a front-facing camera, if you like music, if you want louder music, better sounding music, more bass, Android Auto, wireless, it does screen mirroring. I don't use that, but it does it. Highly recommend getting an aftermarket somehow. Crutchfield was great, but you can find them in a lot of different places. There are places that specialize in selling Tacoma and Tundra head unit packages, speaker packages, all that jazz. I have no affiliation with Crutchfield. I'm just telling you my experience was great. But yeah, highly recommend it. Front-facing camera did not take me very long. Head unit did not take me very long. If you have any questions about getting the console apart, it's not hard to do. A little scary at first time you do it. But I can answer those for you in the comments section. It took me maybe, the hardest part was the programming. I got it wrong. I had to pull it out. And then the external microphone, I didn't realize I needed it. I thought it would work with the truck. So I had to pull it out, install it, and all that good stuff. But I mean, all said, less than 2 days of tinkering in the driveway, front-facing camera, bracket made, cords routed, head unit installed, works great. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing it, highly recommend it. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right, guys, see you next time.